Hello everybody. Getting everything all situated for today's live. I think I might have popped on a minute or so too soon, but hey, that's okay. Better early than not, right? Alrighty. Sure everything is all good to go. I think we're good lighting wise. If you are stopping by, drop a quick comment just to say hello. We'll get into crafting very soon. I think I need a longer cable. I got a new phone recently, so you know how iPhone, they used to work with lightning cables? Well, they've switched over that now they work with USB-C cables, which is, I believe, the same sort of cable that Androids use. I know it's a more universal cable because it also is the same cable that my digital camera uses for when I record. So I've got one for my desk, and I think it's a 3-foot long cable, but part of me thinks I might need a little bit longer than that. I don't know. Oh, I'll figure it out. But I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. It is Thursday. I don't usually go live on Thursdays, but I am trying to get my Facebook Lives done early this month since I'm not going to be available the second half of the month as much as I would like to be. But that's all good things just because I will not be home. We've got a trip coming up that I just want to make sure I've got enough time for everything. So we're getting there. I'm going to wait a minute or so longer. Maybe we'll just kind of talk through what I'll be making tonight. I do have the little blue alien that's included as part of the Ohana stamp set that I will be crafting with tonight. I want to say there's another stamp set. Is it called Forever Friends? There's another stamp set that this image exists on with just the little girl image, but of course, we expanded this little guy's universe and brought in all of his other friends. So now we've got a larger stamp set. So you might already have the one stamp set that was released a handful of years ago. I want to say the stamp set other one might be at least like 5-6 years old or so by now. But this one was just released back in May or June of this year. So it's rather new. But we're going to get into it. I've got some coloring going on. We're going to do some ink blending. We're going to make a scene card. I'm pulling a couple die sets. We're going to have fun with it, I promise. So, all right, let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Like I said, if you guys have stopped by, drop a quick comment just to say hello so I know that you're here. And let's get into a little bit of crafting. So I pulled my colors for this guy, and he's got a lot of different things going on. He kind of looks, when you look at him, fairly monochromatic, but he's got a lot of different blue tones, and we're going to start with the bulk of his fur, because he's got like the main portion of his head and his body is like more of a muted denim blue, and then he has like a lighter blue for his eyes and his chest, and a different blue that's a little bit deeper for his nose. So we're just going to go in and we're going to add some B97 for his denim fur sections. All right, so I'm just going to go in around this little hair tuft. Just trying to be careful. He's not got those standard human tones. He's just a little different because he's not human. He doesn't have like a face with hair. He's got fur and big ears, and we just kind of want to be mindful of everything. So I'm just going in, getting everything nice and colored. All right, and then we'll do his lower part of his nose. And we'll do around the right side, just like that. Okay, so that was B97. Next, we're gonna move on to B95, which is just lighter. And I'm already realizing that I picked the right colors for the main part of his fur. So I'm very happy with what we've selected. So I'm just gonna kind of go in, bring all the fur that we've colored thus far out. this already. All right, his ears. Ooh, I gotta figure out what we're doing for dinner tonight. We've already talked about getting carryouts from kind of an Italian beef hot dog place in the Chicago suburbs called Portillo's, you might be familiar with. That might be for dinner tonight, or not. Stay tuned, we can change our minds. Next, we're going with some B93. Now, of course, this guy is furry, so if you wanted to go in and do some texture techniques with your coloring, you totally could. He would look really cool. I'm not doing it. I kind of avoid it when I can, when it's like narrow areas. I feel like he's not the largest of characters. So if I went in and added a bunch of furry texture, I feel like I'd get frustrated because it would look muddled together, because I just have a tendency of like kind of overcrowding things sometimes in small spaces. So I'm opting not, but if you would like to opt towards it, I say go for it. All right, and then we're gonna use some B91 as our last B for this part of his fur. We're using lots of Bs today, but actually, before we move on to the next section, we'll do just a little bit of color swatching off to the side just to make sure I don't accidentally make the next portion too dark for him. Now, for dinner tonight, I would also love pizza. That always sounds good, but actually, now that I think about it, I think that's what we're doing for dinner tomorrow. I'm also, though, the type of person that I could eat pizza every day of the week if I had a chance to. It's just like one of my absolute favorite things. I was talking with my husband yesterday, and he had brought up some sort of reel that he had watched on Facebook. And he had said people, no, it wasn't on Facebook, I apologize. He was listening to a podcast, and he has from two older YouTubers. And I guess the question had come up is, would you rather give up kissing or all types of sauce? And he brought it up, and I was like sitting there, and I was starting to spiral, because I was like, oh my God, I'm like, sauce, I'm like all dipping sauce, like no barbecue sauce, no ketchup. Those would all go away. I'm like, and then I'm like, pasta, like everything that we call pasta sauce, I'm like, no more pasta. And then I'm like sitting here and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm literally thinking of things that are just like called sauce, not even like what people would say, well, that's kind of a sauce, that's kind of a sauce. Because like, what do you do about like when it's chocolate sauce? Like, do you consider hot fudge a sauce? Like, those are terrible. But then I was like, pizza sauce. I'm like, yeah, the kissing would be gone. Kissing is done. No kissing. I would give up the kissing so I could have my pizza. Sorry, not sorry about it. So, fun questions, you know. So right now what I'm doing, if you've watched one of my lives before, I do a technique that I like to call coloring twice. I call it that because I think it's the most obvious way I can describe what I'm doing. And that is, I go from dark to light one time with my colors. And then, most of the time, I will then throw the colors back on in the same order, dark to light. And I do this for two reasons, and I always like to explain it, and I'm sure that some of you who have been on my lives before think that this sounds repetitive, but you never know who might be tuning in for the first time or catching a replay, so I always like to make sure to mention. When you color twice, you get two main benefits. The first is your alcohol marker ink is going to work the best for you when it's on wet paper. That's just how the ink's going to work rather than it being dry. So by me laying down the color already the first time, when I go to blend the second time, it's going to blend easier because the paper is wetter. The second reason is that the ink is going to become more saturated, which is going to deepen the colors that we're using. So you're going to get more, I don't want to say vibrant colors, but I mean saturated, it means just kind of deeper. So you're going to have all of your colors are just going to kind of be heightened a little bit. Now, part of saturating your colors, I wouldn't say the technical term is that it also makes it darker, but it does because you're layering, and it's like, you know when you're working with dye inks and stamping, and you stamp it once, and then it's like the set color, but then if you stamp it again, it gets darker because you're saturating with more ink of that color. It's the same sort of effect here. So, but like I said, you're deepening that color. I don't want you to think of it as like you're darkening the color, because that kind of throws in another technique of what you do when choosing your alcohol markers. Going in. All right, we've got his main portion of his blue fill ready. Now I want to work on, I said I had to swatch a little bit of colors off to the side. Is that bright enough? So I want to work with the colors for his fur. I think that'll work. I do think this will work. So we go with some B16. I know I just tilted it over. I'm sorry about that. Do a little over there. And then down his chest. Just like that. All right, let's make sure. Nope. All right, if anybody has any questions along the way, be sure to stop me. I'll be happy to answer them. Next, we're going to move on to some B14. I feel like this might just be slightly darker than what I'm going for, but if I add an additional highlight color, I think we might be good. Next, we're going to do some B12. Excuse me. We're going to take a water break in a second when I'm done with this marker. Let's see, I'm going to grab some B00. Perfect. And I'm going to kind of go around the eye, because I don't want to accidentally smudge something. Sometimes I feel like the eyes are the areas that ink is going to have the possibility, or the stamped ink is going to have a possibility of smudging. We don't want that. Oh yeah, this is looking good. All right, so let's go back. We're going to repeat these colors, going with some B16. B14. B12. And B00. Go around that eye. I'm very excited. We are going down to visit my in-laws this weekend, and they live near the Amish capital of Illinois. The town's called Arthur, and we are going to go to this amazing Amish restaurant for breakfast one day. They do a buffet. It's always tasty. My in-laws always hook us up when we go down there and take us out for Amish, and I never have any complaints about it. In fact, I'm usually the one suggesting it. It's either me or, no, it's equally shared between me and my in-laws. They love it too. So we're doing that. That'll be nice and fun. I'm just cleaning off some of my markers right now. Let's work on his ears, his paws, and his claws. So we're gonna go in with some B37. Kind of go in, because his nose is a little bit darker. I'm gonna do the palm of his hand and the soles of his feet. And honestly, with these, I might just color everything but the nose up once. I want to make his nails this color too. And when you're trying to be true to color, true to character rather, these colors are very similar, and I don't know if they're identical when you're looking at the actual character, But I was like, you know what? These areas are so small that this is what we're gonna do. We're just gonna match them up this way to make them look a little darker. These little crevice areas are what give me so much anxiety when crafting. Hold on, let me look at this real close. I think there's one right there. Perfect. And we're gonna go in with some B34. I'll do the nose twice. Everything else once will be enough. And then we'll do B3 too. That'll give it that nice highlight. We'll do his nose once again. I always like to talk about too when you're coloring. I've given this tip before. If you color something and you get frustrated because you think it looks just a little too dark, don't worry. I like to say kind of just, sometimes it helps with crafting to just kind of set something off to the, set your project off to the side and come back to it later. Oftentimes when coloring with your Copic markers, you're going back to that saturating the paper, you do darken it because you're adding and making the paper wet. Like as you make anything, as like anything gets wet, it's going to get a little bit darker. I'm just going to kind of work and blend a little bit of this out while I'm talking, so I'm going to multitask. That's not the right color. That's okay. We'll fix this. Go ahead and just sort of walk away from it and come back later. It'll lighten up just a little bit. Now, I don't want you sitting here thinking that if you colored something and it looks black now, that you're going to come back to it and it's going to look light gray. But when we're talking about like just the slightest of shading, that's more so where you're going to see these benefits. Not really benefits, but that's when this sort of rule is going to roll in. All right. Perfect. All right, let's do his ears next. His ears are they're purple. So we're going to go in with some V06. See, I always thought the inside of his ears were pink, but they're more of like a red, more of like a violet color that leans towards red. All right, and then we'll go with some V04. I didn't dry this out. No, I'm good. We'll go on with some V01. That really just sort of lightens it and gives it a little bit of a pinkness. Make sure I'm not missing any comments. I might be. Oh, there we go. Carrie, question. We all know your skin color combo. For a sun-kissed skin tone, what would you add to darken? It's a great question. So my standard skin tone combo, let's go over that first because I'm actually going to use it when talking to you about it. So my standard skin tone blend is E04 to E11 to E1 to E21 to E00 to E000. So the 3 zeros is the lightest. If you're wanting to go for a little bit more of a sun-kissed skin tone, I would go from E04, and if you just want it a little tanner, I would then go to E13, and I would build that into your blend, and I would take out E000. That's what I would start with if you're just looking for that sun-kissedness, but if you're looking for something a little bit deeper, then I would go into E15, then E13, E11, and E21. And I might even consider ending with E21, but you can kind of make the choice after E21 if you feel like you need to add in one of the E0s to lighten it a little bit, but I can leave that up to you. So I just kind of take my standard skin tone and I say that I like take a step out of it and I just kind of move all the colors in line, but still build off of it. I hope that makes sense, Carrie. So in short, E04, then add in E13, and then don't use E000. Just for like a nice sun-kissed skin tone. I didn't see that question when it came in at real time, so if that was been sitting there for like 5-10 minutes, I greatly apologize. V01. All right, purple ears. Now we just gotta do his mouth, tongue, and teeth. We can get him all trimmed out. All right, so let's do, perfect. Carrie, for whatever reason, I'm having to do like a couple extra steps in touching my iPad screen to see any comments coming in. So I apologize, but I'm glad that helps. I just think that skin tone is great as like your base, and then use it to whatever you need to lighten, darken, whatever. Like if you're going for a little bit more of a peachy skin tone, then I even like to use that, but then instead of like E00, I might go into like YR01 and YR00 to get like that peachiness going. It's just about kind of subbing things out. You kind of got to think about with the skin tone. I mean, unless we're going like really, really dark skin tone, then I would say that one doesn't really work, because you're basically like, you're not going to really want to use like an E21 for someone with a very, very dark skin tone, because it's not going to be what you're looking for. So you're going to essentially be using a whole different skin tone for that. But if we're looking at things that are still kind of like have a lighter or a more fair skin tone, you can still incorporate those colors. All right, so we're going with some RB34. I actually find darker skin tones are just really difficult. Like they're just, and it's hard because you want to like capture shadows and highlights, and you don't want things to look muddled. And I use that term because like muddled to me is when like you mix the wrong colors together and it ends up just looking like nothing even remotely close of what you're going for. Oftentimes people refer to muddled as like when you accidentally mix like two opposite colors on the color wheel and then it gets brown. Like that could be a version of muddled too. Like I also think about muddled being like when you're making a cocktail and like you're muddling something, you're like taking everything and like grinding it together to make it just one solid thing. So I don't like that. You want the layers, you want all the parts. And that's my TED Talk, I suppose. So it's R14. Or RV14, and then RV13, and then RV10. We'll repeat those, and then he will be good to go. I'm very happy with the colors for him. I think if anything, I may have been able to make his ears, the inner parts of his ears, slightly less deep of a purple. I maybe could have started with V04. And like talking about skin tones, using that sort of technique about like just changing the steps of colors, It applies to anything. Like, I'm talking about the inside of the ears right now, and I'm thinking like, well, I probably could have like done like changed the step, like stepped out a little bit, and instead of starting with V06, I could have done the same series of colors, but started with V04 and maybe done like V04, V01, like V000, to get the colors that I need. For his teeth, we're gonna go with E50. His teeth have like the very, very slightest of a yellowness to them, but almost more like a bony color. So I just wanted to go in and just sort of add a little bit of something so they weren't stark white. So there we have it. All right, so he is all colored up. I'm gonna move my markers to the side, and I'm gonna grab my fussy cutting scissors, and we'll get him all cut out. So. I'm just gonna kind of move around. I feel like the card that I'm making today is a little on the obvious side, but sometimes what's obvious to one person may not have been for someone else, and it sparks some good inspiration, you know? And it's like, that's sometimes how great ideas flow together, is that somebody has an idea and then people build off of it, or people may have not shared the original idea, you know? So we're gonna end up making a little bit of a beach scene card for him, and we're gonna have a one-word sentiment, and it's gonna be perfect. I've been using a lot of the Adeline Alpha dyes lately. We will not be using those tonight, which is totally a-okay. I love alphabet dyes, like a lot. I think they're one of my favorite sort of dye sets to invest in. But then also sometimes they're like, I don't want to use them because I don't feel like working with multiple pieces, making sure they're all lined up, making sure they're ink blended correctly. Ideally, I also like to work with alphabet dyes when they're stacked on top of each other. And what I mean by stacking is when someone takes the same of one die cut and adheres multiple layers of it on top of each other to give it dimension without using something like foam tape. Because I think that that's a really nice effect on a card. The other thing though too is like, I feel like it's an effect for like someone like me who shares a lot of my projects on social media. It's not really an effect that photographs well, but it's an effect that like you can really tell the difference in person or in a video. I don't know, just my 2 cents. I don't know, it's so interesting too, like to talk about like the social media aspect of crafting, because when you're staging a photo, like what you're taking a picture of is usually not even remotely what the outside of that area looks like. Like sometimes you have backgrounds and it looks like this beautiful sort of like marble kitchen countertop, for example, or like a beautiful like slat of wood. And the truth is, it's probably a piece of contact paper on like a particle board of sorts. And then they're like, you've got a bunch of different filters around or different like white cards to make sure that the color balance is there. But like, that's the world of media in general, is it's like, they just care about what the final product is going to look like, not necessarily what the means around it look like to get there, because that's not really going to matter as part of the aesthetic. All right, so we've got him all nice and cut out. Perfect. So I'm going to do a little bit of ink blending, and we're going to get everything together. So we're going to make a little bit of a scene card for this guy. I've really kind of been leaning into making scene cards during lives lately, but we're going to make a little bit of a beachy scene. He's going to be sitting here on the beach. I've got a couple die cuts as well that we're going to be using, so I'm going to just start getting everything together. So for the background, let's start with that. We're going to do an ink blend. I grabbed a 3-color blend, and we're going to use Wild Honey Picked Raspberry and Wilted Violet. And I usually go more yellow, but I thought Wild Honey would be a good between like yellow and orange color. So we're going to go ahead we're gonna add this on, and I just need to make sure, yes, that's perfect. I just wanna make sure that none of the whiteness of the paper is gonna be peeking through, and it's not, so yay. All right, so we've got our wild honey down, and then we've gotta use picked raspberry. Right above it. And I'm using a Bristol Smooth Blending cardstock. This is a white cardstock that I had die cut using the Card Basics die set, so it's got that really nice stitched edge. And we're gonna just go in with that wild honey blending tool, get that ombre going. And then I wanted to kind of capture like a Hawaiian sunset color of sorts. That's why I'm opting for this. And we're gonna go in with some wilted violet, add that on top, just like this, yay. So pretty. And then I'm gonna take that picked raspberry tool, just sort of blend them together. And I might even have to go back in with the wild honey, but that's okay. I feel like the picked raspberry is a little harder to see. It's okay. Awesome. Okay. So I've got that. And then let me go ahead, do just a little bit of cleanup. No, we don't have to clean up right yet. We're gonna do a little bit of splatter. All right. Awesome. So now I just gotta let that set for a little bit. And this is gonna give us some really nice bleach marks. Distress oxides are water reactive inks, so they pull the ink from the paper to return it to the color underneath. So that's what it's doing right now. I usually like to let it sit for at least maybe 20 to 30 seconds. The longer you let it sit, the more of the ink that will get pulled up. And then using a clean-ish towel, I say ish because let's be honest, I feel like in your craft space, it's really hard to have like a super, super clean craft towel. I'm just gonna go ahead and pick that up. Let's go ahead, wipe that down. Now I did want to incorporate something new in my craft space. I've used it for some lives before. I know I just used a color for my last live last week, but I want to do some papers, some solar spray splatter using Pity Party solar spray. It's one of the new colors. I just got this a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it would just add a really nice element to our sky. So I'm gonna go in, I've got an older Kindred Stamps box. That's what I use for my splatter box. And I just wanna shake this up a little bit. I actually saw that they have like a tool that's like a bottle shaker and it'll do this for you. And I'm like, do I need to invest in that? I don't know, stay tuned. All right, so we're gonna spray off to the side. All right. And then I'm just gonna kind of spray a little bit. Doesn't need to be too much. I just thought it would add a really nice pearlescence to the sky. So let's see, if I bring it a little closer, you can kind of see how it catches. I just think it's really pretty. So I'm gonna set this aside so it can dry a little bit more. And then let's work on our next layer, which is the sandy beach portion. And I'm gonna pull in some Vintage Photo Oxide for the bottom. I hope I'm not going too dark, but I think I'll be fine. I'm using an already light tan cardstock and just doing my Distress Oxide on top of it. I usually don't use oxides on top of colored cardstock. I usually will opt to use a distressing, but when it comes to sand, I want it to have like a soft look to it. And I feel like I get that best using my oxide inks, so I make an exception for sand. And I also don't need this to be like a super deep blend either. Just kind of going in. Brushed corduroy is also a really good color to use when it comes to the beach for sand. So keep that in mind as well. All right, so it's not as smooth of a blend as I would normally go for, but we're gonna do some covering up with this. So I'm not terribly concerned. So I'm gonna put my blending tool back off to the side, do a little bit of cleanup. I'm just now realizing I don't have a brush to use. That's okay. So I'm gonna put this out. We're gonna use some paper splatters. I've got opaque black and opaque white. And here's one that I can use. So we're gonna do a little bit of black and a little bit of white. Make sure it's shaken up nicely, because the white, if it separates, it's just gonna be like splattering a clearer or a watered down liquid. All right. The white will also pull up a little bit of the vintage photo as well, so it's gonna have a little bit of a beige tinge to it, and that's okay. I'm actually also gonna go in really quickly, do a little bit of this to the night sky, or to the beach sky, just for a little bit of splatter fun. There we go. Set that back to dry. Clean this off. Oop. It's okay. We are all good. I'm gonna go in with some of my opaque black. I don't need to go too crazy with that. Just to kind of give it that speckled sand sort of look. All right. Wonderful. I can set that aside to dry. Clean off my block a little bit. Move this. Perfect. All right, now I'm gonna bring in an edge that I had cut. So this is using the wave border die. Being honest, I think there's a chance that this die may be out of stock currently, and if that's the case, I do apologize. But I did want to make sure I had a nice wavy edge. So I did go ahead and use it. I know that there are other craft dies out there that you could use to get a wavy border. So if it's not a Kindred one, use what you have on hand. And I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna use some Mermaid Lagoon, which has become one of my favorite blues. I used to not use it often, and now I reach for it quite a bit. It's very similar to Salty Ocean, but I think it's got a very, very slight tinge of green. When Salty Ocean is more of a traditional blue color, I do think that this one's got the very slightest of a green to it, and it gives it a little bit of a nice sea foam color. Not sea foam, but like just like an ocean color. I mean, it's called Mermaid Lagoon. It's obviously saltwater oriented, you know? All right, I'm gonna go in, protect my fingers. This is Salvage Patina. So I'm gonna go in with this, add it on the top. Going in. The water's a little lighter on top than it is the bottom. Perfect. Awesome. And we'll do a little bit of splattering with this as well. my spraying tool. All right. Hi, Karen. Hope you're having a good night. Salvage patina is honestly one of like my, I would say top fives for sure. My number one used to be tumbled glass, and I do think that salvage patina has taken that over. But I say top five because I have like kind of always have a changing opinion of different distress colors. Like there are some colors that I've never had a use for, and then all of a sudden I found reasons like to use them. For example, like tattered rose. I thought, to me, and this is not me being rude because I'm about to come full circle with it, I thought tattered rose was like incredibly useless to me. I'm like, this is like a peachy flesh tone color. I'm like, I'm not going to want to use this for anything. And I ended up thinking about what I just described it as, because when I do die cuts, like if you're putting die cuts together and you need a dye paper and you need like a flesh tone paper, tattered rose works really, really well for that. So I found myself using it a couple more times recently where I'm like, this color is not useless. Like I'm actually finding myself using it more and more. So I don't know. There's always kind of a change in opinions for me on the papers. So, all right. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to grab my heat it tool just to set this, make sure we're all good to go. And then we'll kind of layer everything together. And I'm looking right now, realizing that I left my glue press over on my other desk, so I'll have to get that when I'm done. It's okay. I am going to use liquid adhesive to adhere all of this together. Now, if you wanted to make a card that had a little bit more dimension, you could use foam tape for each of the layers, and that would really make things pop. I am not going to be doing that, but you could if you wanted to. Do I want to do that? I don't know if I want to do that. I would only do it with the water. Okay. The water to pop. That would be nice. Just a little bit of, maybe I will. All right, so let's see. If I was to do a little bit of water popping, grab some foam tape. Pop it, dot the water. I think so. We're gonna do that. We're gonna add some foam strips. And then just kind of this off. Let's see. My goodness, this uses a lot of foam tape, and that's okay. Another piece off to the side. Just like that. Awesome. Alright, so I'm going to go in. I'm just going to make sure that it lines up nicely. So I have a feeling you might see me poking my top of my head into this. Stay tuned. Actually, that's very nice. I'm not complaining. I think that's pretty good. And then I'm going to take this and use liquid adhesive and adhere that right here. That's really pretty. That is really pretty. All right. So we're going to go in. So we've got this. Awesome. And see how it's got that really nice sort of lift that creates a little bit of shadow with the water. We're going to have our guy kind of just sitting on the beach too. It's going to be super, super cute. But we're getting there. We're not done yet. The beach looks a little barren. I think it needs just a little bit of decor. So I took the, what is it called? Park Gates? I think it's called the Park Gates die set. And we're just going to use the palm trees that are included with this. So let's see. So I, being transparent, don't 100% know the intended way of putting these trees together. But this is the way that Justin does it. So for each of the trees, I have die cut a brown and a green layer. And I am going to cut the tree so that the green layer gets laid on top. So I'm just going to kind of cut the green trunks of the palm trees off, just like that. And then I'm going to go in. We're going to do a little bit of ink blending. Where did I put my blending brushes? Why? Oh, Justin. I think I have everything over here, and then I find very quickly that is not the case. We're going to use a little bit of Lucky Clover ink, and I'm going to go in and just sort of do it in the center. Ooh, that's a little much. That's okay. Let it out. This is a juicy ink pad. That's okay. It's okay, it's okay. We will just be mindful, blending the others up. All right. Next, I'm just gonna take some leaves, and these are also included with the Park Gates die set. I'm just gonna kind of blend a couple of them, and we're just gonna kind of layer them. And this is gonna give the illusion that like there's multiple layers of leaves going on. There's not, and that's okay, but I'm just gonna kind of match them up the shape the best that I can and layer them. So I'm only gonna use a couple per palm tree, which works for me honestly, but you do you. Kind of blending each of the edges. Is that one? I don't know if that's that one. Might as well be. We're just gonna kind of layer it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay. What other leaves? And some of them just match up nicely. Like, I don't even think they have to match up nicely on top of each other because it gives you that kind of very palm tree look of sorts. So I'm just popping them on, giving them a nice little dimensional look. And hey, you do you, right? Whatever makes the most sense for you and your crafting, that's what you gotta do. I love using residual ink on my blending brushes too. It makes things very easy. All right. I also probably should have been using tweezers with this, but oh well. All right, so we just got the tops of our trees kind of ready to go, nice and layered. I also need to blend them out a little bit with the trunks of the trees. So I am gonna grab my brown blending brush and some vintage photo distress ink and just add it towards the top and towards the bottom. And the brown paper I'm using is honestly already pretty dark, so this is just gonna add a very, very, very slight ink blendedness to it, just to give it a little bit of shading, but not too much. So, all right, so I've got that, put that away, and then I am gonna go in, let's see, I'm just gonna adhere these on top of each other. Oh, Justin. That must be for this one. Great. Now, if only I had little coconuts that I could put on, but that's okay. We'll live without them. We've got our little palm trees. And now the last element I have to work on is my sentiment. I went into my word die stash, and I feel like this, like I said, sometimes it's just a little obvious, but I grabbed our Aloha word die. It's on sale for $5.99. I was like, this is the perfect little die cut to use for a sentiment. So I'm going to just kind of ink blend the edges of this using some Wilted Violet Distress ink, not oxide ink. So I'm just gonna kind of go in and just sort of darken up these edges. And so just give a nice sort of shading to it. Not making it too dark. Now I also could have just added this directly to the bottom and had it look like an ombre from like darker on the bottom, lighter on the top, but we're just gonna kind of go around the shadow outline. I love that our word die cuts, most of them have this. There's a couple that don't. I know that the I Put a Spell on You one, when we had that one, was just the outline. No, just the word itself, or words rather, no outline. But the single words typically have the outline. All right. Just like that. Perfect. All right. Let's put that off to the side, put my little blending tool away, and then grab my tweezers. And then we're gonna put some liquid adhesive behind this. Kind of focusing and trying not to put excessive amounts of this, because that's when you smush it on the paper and the ink or the glue comes on the other, like underneath, and then you get those glue marks on your paper, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with those today. So I'm trying to very carefully add just a little bit of glue. I do not have dainty, delicate hands and fingers, so sometimes that gets a little difficult. Awesome. So we're gonna go ahead, just gonna kind of eyeball this the best that I can. Ooh, we might be there. We might just have to drop it on one time. That would be lovely. All right, I think we're good. So I'm gonna put that on just to kind of help give it a little bit of pressure. And then we can kind of start mapping things out. So what I'm gonna do is, I think that these little palm trees, oh, that's so smart. I know that those little glue, the little sticker machines, I know that they're not called sticker machines, but the little X machines, I have one as well. I need to buy a new refill for it, but it really works well for that, Megan. Obviously, you know that's why you do it. So we're gonna put the trees kind of, let's see, over here. And then he's gonna be just kind of under the trees a little bit, but I've got to figure out how I want to do them. I'm thinking maybe like that. And we could put him maybe like right there. Is that too far over? I'll figure it all out. And then it's going to say Aloha. I just gotta figure out where I want to do these trees. I think I might. All right, we're gonna go ahead. I want to put this on a layer first because our our stitched rectangle die from the Card Basics is 4 by 5 1/4. So it's about 1/4 of an inch too short on each side to be A2 size. So I often mat this die to give it a little bit extra. So I took a 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 panel, and this is like of a peacock color. I'm just gonna adhere this onto it. Perfect. Oh, I love that. I kind of second guessed what color to use. I just thought that that would be like a really nice deep blue that ocean cards should have. So, all right, so we're gonna go in and I'm gonna let this go a little off the side. Not too much, just a little bit. So we're gonna go in. We're just gonna kind of let it sit like that. Like I said, not too much. And we'll layer this one kind of next to it. All right. You know what? I think that works. It's a little hefty up here because it's like 4 pieces of paper overlapping, but I'm gonna call it a win. And we're gonna put our little alien guy over here, I think. What do I want this to be? So we're gonna grab some foam tape. We're gonna put it behind here. We're gonna cut this and just trim it a little bit. Let's go ahead, separate this, have one extra layer. Awesome. That way it's got a nice little bit of lift. And we'll add it to the card. I love this big bold sentiment. I love that it's kind of soft. I probably could have gone a little darker with the purple around it, but it's okay. I'm not too upset about it. There. And I also want to do foam tape behind him. Add a little bit in. And maybe we won't do them on the bottom of his feet. I think it pops really nice as well. It's like, it's not a color that we're directly using in the rest of the card, Megan. And it's like, but it still pulls in like the purple from the sky, which I think just makes it coordinate nicely. All right, so we're gonna make sure this guy is underneath the water. If need, yeah, because that's gonna add some nice layering. but just barely. So, all right, so we've got them there. Let's grab an A2 sized card base. So part of me almost wonders if I should have pushed him off to the side a little bit. Maybe I will. That ripped a little bit of the paper. That's okay. Fix it. Not overly concerned. Honestly, this is gonna just kind of get recovered. I'm talking about moving this over like less than 1/4 of an inch. So everything is gonna basically be looking the same anyways. All right. Perfect. Got my card base. Let's go ahead and adhere him to it. I think we'll go in. I'm going to go into my stash and grab a couple embellishments. Let's see what I got. I don't want to use those. Or those. What do I want to do? I have so many different, like, enamel dots. And I want to, sometimes it's so dang hard to find one that coordinates with what you're making. I'll adjust it. Here's some. I think these will work out okay. So we're gonna go in. I'm gonna just. I don't love these. See, now I'm getting picky. What am I gonna do? See, my problem is a lot of enamel dots, the largest size, are always the ones I use up first. Phooey. You know what? It'll work fine. It works fine. Seven. Do I need more? I think that's good for now. I think we're done. All right, I got real quiet as I was doing my embellishments, but I think we're at a good spot to end our project. So we've got our little scene card featuring our little blue alien, our Aloha word die, the park gate dies that we use to create the little palm trees for our beach, and then of course we use the card basics die as well, just to kind of help with the layering of everything. So we did some ink blending, we did some good Copic marker coloring. I think the coloring of this guy turned out rather perfect, if I do say so myself. And I hope that you enjoyed it as well. Be sure to check out my post. I'm gonna get this uploaded to the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, so you guys can watch replays later. And then if you have any questions, always let me know. My next Facebook Live and the last one for the month for me is next Wednesday, which is August 13th. I think. And then I know Heather is going live on Saturday, August 23rd as well. So we've got 2 more lives going at you for the month. If you have any questions, make sure to comment below. You can always post, tag me in the fan club, whatever works for you. And thank you so very much for stopping by. I hope this gives you a little bit of crafty inspiration, a fun way to use the Ohana stamp set. And I've been leaning into making some scene cards with y'all because I know that scene cards really work well with fandom dies and stamp sets. So I think that this worked really well. Thank you once again for stopping by, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you real soon. Goodbye.